Resolution number 10 is a resolution to amend the previous motion approved in regular session on September 8, 2014 concerning gun-free zone, and we have a special speaker with us here today that I'd like to introduce at this time and call forward Mr. Richard Archie with the Tennessee Firearms Association. Mr. Archie, we welcome you here.
Thank you. I'm no longer a resident of Gibson County, but I grew up in Milan, Tennessee, and several of you know me here. Counselor over here grew up about 200 yards from my house, so I've been a member of Gibson County in heart ever since I graduated high school in 1972, and actually played on John Tucker's first state championship football team. So there is history for me to be a Gibson County member. I'm here today to speak about the recent gun-free zone. Notice the signs on the back here saying that now the county has decided to take responsibility for the safety and security of everybody in this room. I'm not sure that's necessarily what you want to do, because I think that sign up there now has put you in a position that you don't want to be responsible for. However, I am currently the West Tennessee Director of the Tennessee Firearms Association. I spend quite a bit of time on the study of these issues. It's a position that I spend a lot of time on. Here y'all talking about taking off from work and stuff. I don't get paid a dime for all the different meetings that I go to or the places I drive. It's my passion that I have, and I'm a volunteer to do that. One of the things I think we need to understand here is that Tennesseans have always been volunteers. It's our nickname. There's a popular misconception that football in Tennessee, Go Big Orange by the way, is where we got that nickname, but it is not. In 1813, Governor Willie Blount called for 1,000 volunteers to join Andrew Jackson's regulars to go down into Alabama and to fight the Red Sticks. That was the Creek Indians. And the term that we hear all the time, good Lord willing, the creeks don't rise, doesn't have anything to do with water coming up in a ditch and you being able to get across the road. It has everything to do with the Creek Indians at that time, who marauded through West Tennessee and killed people. And what they were trying to do at that point in the War of 1812, the governor called for 1,000 volunteers to go with Andrew Jackson to Alabama to fight Creek Indians, and 3,500 people showed up. They were carrying their own weapons and munitions. Also, in 1846, Tennessee Governor Aaron Brown issued a call for volunteers for 2,600 people to join the Texas War of Independence. By the time they counted all the heads in Tennessee, there were 30,000 individuals who showed up with their own personal weapons, their own munitions. Tennesseans have always had a history of fighting for the right cause. We don't necessarily wait for everybody else to take care of us. We do it for ourselves. I'm also a student of the Tennessee Constitution, specifically related to these issues. The admitted author of the state constitution, written in 1796, by the way, was Andrew Jackson. They penned this with about 20 people together up on the other side of Nashville, and he got on his horse and he rode to Washington, D.C., and he handed our Constitution to Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson read it that night, and he came back to Jackson the next day. He said, "This is the least imperfect and most Republican of all the state constitutions that I have seen." They carried it across the street to the federal Congress, and we were admitted into the Union without it even coming back and having to be ratified by the people in Tennessee. It was that good. The original section in our Declaration of Rights, which is akin to the Bill of Rights in the federal Constitution, was Article 11, Section 26, that the free men of this state have a right to keep and bear arms for their common defense. That was the end of the line. In 1870, after the Civil War, we had to rewrite our Constitution to be readmitted into the Union, and they changed at that point and put a codicil on the end of it and said, however, the legislature shall have power by law to regulate the wearing of arms with a view to prevent crime. They instituted that year the intent to go armed clause in the state of Tennessee code annotated. Basically, this is a Jim Crow law that was put in place to make sure that the freed slaves did not have an opportunity to bear arms for their own defense at home. It's still on the books in the state of Tennessee, by the way. Most other states have removed that, but it is still a crime in the state of Tennessee for any person in this room who is not a post-certified law enforcement officer to leave the confines of their personal property with a loaded firearm. Now, a lot of people, like me, have purchased from the state a handgun carry permit. But if you will read on that, what that is a defense against prosecution. It does not give you a right in the state of Tennessee to go armed. It is still an illegal activity for you to leave your home or your personal property and walk amongst your brethren with a loaded firearm. You can purchase your right, at which point it's no longer a right, but it's a privilege, by going through the handgun carry permit process, but it is still simply a defense against prosecution. We have had one Supreme Court case in the state of Tennessee that deals with this. And it was, in fact, in Gibson County, Tennessee. A gentleman named Mr. Andrews was a rental property owner, and he was going about his business of picking up his rent for some recalcitrant folks who didn't want to pay him. And he was threatened on his route to pick up his rent. And so he put his pistol in his pocket the next month, and when he went out, and he was arrested by the Gibson County Sheriff. And he carried it all the way to the Tennessee Supreme Court because he said, my constitutional right to provide for my own defense is shown right there. The precept is there in the Constitution. Here's what our Supreme Court said. The Tennessee Supreme Court had recognized that the General Assembly has the authority under this section of the Constitution, Article 1, Section 26 at that point, to enact legislation to regulate the wearing and carrying of arms in public. Any such enactment, however, must be guided by and restrained to this end, and bear some well-defined relation to the prevention of crime, or else it is unauthorized by this clause of the Constitution. Last year in the state of Tennessee, there were 475,000 handgun carry permit holders. Of that entire number, and I want to get this right, 328 lost their permits for any reason, and these include failure to pay child support, by orders of the courts regarding domestic disputes, DUI convictions, or being considered, and also you have to put in there, convicted of a felony, and by being considered a danger by the courts. So all those different things that can happen, 328 out of 475,000 permit holders lost their permit for any of those reasons. That's less than 1/10,000th of 1%. If you can find me another group in the state of Tennessee that's that law-abiding, I'd like to meet them and shake their hand. Arguably, permit holders in the state of Tennessee are the most law-abiding group of individuals you can find. The Tennessee Constitution provides that every person chosen to any office of trust must take an oath to support the Constitution of this state and of the United States. Government has no rights, folks. Government only has power, and you derive your power from the consent of the governed. When you step forward to take your position, you are a legislator here in Gibson County. You've taken on a sacred trust, and you raise your hand, or you affirm to know that you would do nothing that would impinge upon the rights and privileges of the citizens of this state to enjoy those freedoms given to them by our Tennessee Constitution. In Article 11, Section 16, the Bill of Rights is declared invalid, and this talks about our Declaration of Rights. The Declaration of Rights hereto prefixed is declared to be a part of the Constitution of this state and shall never be violated on any pretense whatsoever. And to guard against transgressions of the high powers that we have delegated, we declare that everything in the Bill of Rights contained is accepted out of the general powers of government and shall remain forever invalid. That's some pretty strong wording right there. The boys put this together, didn't want there to be any question. They didn't want folks to be able to sit around and decide what was right or wrong. They laid it out. They sacrificed their blood and treasure to make sure that we, in fact, have these rights held inviolate for perpetuity. We're charged by our Constitution to provide for our own defense. Law enforcement is not responsible to provide protection to any group or individual. If you and I are walking out, say of Kroger, 10 o'clock at night, and we're going back to our car, an individual, I live in Jackson by the way now, third most dangerous municipality in the entire United States. It is safer to live in Chicago now than it is in Jackson, Tennessee. I fight this same battle down there all the time. But if we're walking out of Kroger back to our car at 11 o'clock at night, just got from a county commission meeting, we got to stop and pick up some milk because the wife said so. and we're accosted and robbed, somebody hits us in the back of the head with a baseball bat, can we turn around then and sue the city of Jackson or Gibson County because we were injured, because we were robbed? Of course not. No municipality can stand to be responsible for your safety. Ergo, that's why in the Constitution it calls for you to be, under Article 1, Section 26, responsible for your own safety. If your car gets stolen, can you turn in a claim to the county and say, car was picked up out of my driveway? Sheriff's supposed to make sure that he ferrets out all crime and keeps that from happening. I'd like to be paid back for that. They're going to laugh at you because municipalities are not responsible to return your stolen properties, just like they're not responsible for your personal safety. And I'll give you a couple of instances here. Castle Rock versus Gonzalez, June 28, 2005. The Supreme Court of the United States of America ruled that police do not have a constitutional duty to protect any individual from harm. Warren v. District of Columbia, 1981, the District of Columbia Court of Appeals held that police did not owe a special duty to provide police services or protection to any individual based on their public duty doctrine. I'm going to give you a reference here that you might be concerned with. February 7, 2008, at the Kirkwood, Missouri City Council meeting, Charles Lee Cookie Thornton, who had a piece of paper issued by a judge, a restraining order, said you can't come back to the city council. He walked across the street with a .44 Magnum pistol and waited for a police officer to come by, shot him in the back of the head and picked up his service weapon, a .40 caliber. He then entered into the city council meeting where he walked up behind the police officer who was on duty, supposedly to provide protection, then shot him in the ear and killed him. Then he killed 5 and wounded 2. Now this was a man that had a prescription from the government saying, not only can you not carry a weapon, but you can't come into this place. Now, they had a police officer on duty standing at the back door to watch. He was killed instantly. Evil, folks, doesn't pay any attention to these signs that you put up. If we watched the news recently, we saw an incident occur in Oklahoma where an individual came into a place of business and he took a long knife and he cut a woman's head off. And then he started down the line, he grabbed the next one. An individual there who was a reserve police officer, reserve sheriff. Good thing that he had some training. But in this instance, he was not on duty. He was not in his uniform. He was not acting as a police officer, had access to a weapon. He had his own handgun carry permit, and he stopped that right then. He was able to defend his place of business, his life, and the life of the rest of the employees there because he had a firearm. I don't know how many of you have ever heard of Dr. Susanna Gracia Hupp. She is a lady that was eating lunch with her mother and father in 1991 in Killeen, Texas. An individual drove his pickup truck through the front plate glass window of Luby's restaurant on a Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock. He got out and he had 2 weapons with him. He started shooting people. He killed 23 and wounded 19. Nobody was able to do anything. Dr. Hupp was there with her mother and father. Her father realized what was happening, so he charged the gunman, was instantly gunned down. His mother, or her mother, then turned and cradled him, and he walked up to her and placed the gun on her temple and killed her while her daughter watched. She was able to escape out a window when a gentleman jumped through that window. She got out behind him, and she made it her life's business at that point to get elected to the House of Representatives in Texas, and she was successful. She held that office for 5 terms, and she was instrumental in getting the Texas handgun carry permit bill passed. If y'all realize that from the Civil War until 1995 for Texas and 96 for the state of Tennessee, it was illegal for the average citizen to carry a handgun of any type. She said that she wasn't mad at the gunman for shooting her mother and father. She was mad at her legislators for denying her her right to provide for her own protection. She has a quote that I'm going to give you. How a politician stands on the Second Amendment tells you how he or she views you as an individual, as a trustworthy and productive citizen, or as a part of an unruly crowd that stands and needs to be lorded over, controlled, supervised, and taken care of. In other words, whether they need to be treated as citizens or subjects. Law enforcement, well-meaning, is not charged with supplying personal protection to the individual. Our Constitution lays that burden on us. If you have a gun-free zone, the only people that are going to be entering here are going to be criminals. Because I personally left my weapon outside today. I honor your signs. The average criminal who doesn't intend to honor any law is going to look at that and realize that he has a stress-free work environment. I implore you folks, think about this situation. These laws given to us by our founders were there for a purpose, for folks to decide that they want to take away the ability of the individual to provide for their own personal defense, to me, is ridiculous. I ask you to reconsider your action, look at your oath and obligation under the Constitution of the state of Tennessee, and reread Article 1, Section 26 that says that each of us has the right to keep and bear arms for our common defense. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Archie. Well, very well put and well said. Mr. Archie, thank you again for being here. We appreciate you being our guest here today. At this time, I'm going to entertain a motion on resolution number 10, and then we'll open the floor for discussion. Motion's been made by Commissioner Hughes and seconded by Commissioner Archie. And again, the motion is to allow concealed carry in these meetings, to amend the previous motion made in September to allow concealed carry on a yes vote.
Who's the second?
Who did you get the second?
Mr. Locke.
Okay,
Mr. Locke.
Mr. Archie.
Yeah. Did I say Mr.
I
Locke?
think you said.
I might have said Mr. Archie. All right.
Mr. Law.
He done made the motion, I can't do
Yeah,
it.
he did.
That said, we have a motion and a second. I'm gonna open the floor to discussion. Before we do, Ford, I want to call on you to offer opinion on the legality of the action taken at the September meeting and advise the body as to where their authority lies.
Okay, two things. First of all, I did go up a couple hundred yards from Richard, and everything Richard said is true. The Constitution does, everything he said is true. We have no disagreement with Richard at all. Tennessee has a statute, and I didn't bring it with me, but there is a statute that the legislature has passed that allows the vote that we took back in September to not only be legal, but frankly, that's what the statute was designed to do, was to allow you all to make that decision. Moreover, so what you all did in September, case closed, I believe anybody in this room would agree is legal. We did not, that's my only job is law. I'm a county attorney, I'm not elected to office like y'all are to make decisions, but it was legal. In addition, the Attorney General's office has also opined that you all can do that. So there's no question in my mind. I mean, it was legal what we did. We have two other things that I don't know some of you all are aware of. Is we have a lease agreement with the University of Tennessee as well as the Farm Service Agency, FSA. And in that lease agreement, both of those require us to not have the guns in this part that we lease to them. And so because of the access of this building, it's considered one unit. So if we were to follow this motion and change the mind that was already been decided, then we would potentially have a problem with our lease with both the University of Tennessee and the FSA office. They alerted us to that, they being the FSA office alerted us to that several weeks ago. And so just again, being a county attorney, that's all I am in this deal, is certainly what action you all have taken would be what I think any county attorney would say puts you in the best legal spot with our leases as well as the statute itself. Yes, sir.
Mr. Floyd, what does that lease amount to? What are they paying us a year?
Oh gosh, dog, it's a really good. Lanita, what is the FSA people pay us?
So much a square foot?
So much a square foot, and it's about $80,000.
Just USDA is 85.
We have.
Yeah, I've seen FSA, USDA.
This is a 10-year lease, and it is murder to get. In fact, we had to pay $6,000 for engineers to come in here from Arkansas for a seismic evaluation.
It's approximately $80,000 a year, and I said FSA, that's under the domain of the United States Department of Agriculture.
Yes.
But they lease this part, just up there.
It's unclear as to whether this auditorium falls under the authority of that
They don't
lease.
pay
It's
lease
just
for
unclear.
No, I don't think they pay the lease.
I don't either. And in all honesty, I don't think I really don't think they have authority over this meeting place. But you do, as a body.
Floyd, prior to the last September meeting where this gun-free zone was implemented, citizens had the right to bring concealed carry in here. Was there ever a problem?
No. Now, I'll say this much, I wasn't aware of the lease provision, which of course was in effect at that time too, but no, there wasn't a problem. We haven't had a problem. Yes, ma'am.
If our sheriff's department isn't legally responsible for protecting us, and I'm shot, what keeps David from suing the county?
No, I understand.
Okay.
That's a point certainly to be
What keeps
considered.
who from suing the county?
Her husband. In
Because
other words, we took action that de-armed people, but part of what you all passed is the sheriff is here, the chief deputy is here, Captain, I can't see back there, Roger Gray was here earlier, and there's always, certainly it makes me feel better to know that there's going to be some armed people, law enforcement officers here, and I think there's always been. But yes, I understand the point.
Floyd,
Yes, sir.
you're familiar with this more than us probably. I got this off of I think off the Tennessee Firearms website if I was on the right site, but the Tennessee legislature doesn't allow any guns, correct?
Right.
And this is the county legislative body, so I feel we perfectly have the right not to allow them in here. Also, according to that Tennessee Firearms website, schools are not allowed to have guns. And one meeting out of our 6, we host the youth leadership class, which is a school function. 25 or 30 kids come in here. And I think we should adhere to their policy, being as they're bringing their students in here.
Any other questions? Mr. Hewitt?
You know, they don't allow guns in the courtroom and having hearings there. Looks like to me this would be under, we're having county business here. I know that's not like a courtroom, but it looks like people would be willing to say, well, you know, if you don't allow it in the courtroom in downtown here you wouldn't allow it in a courtroom like this, a meeting room where they're conducting business that affects those people down there and money and that kind of thing, you know.
Mr. Phillips, yes.
You was talking about the lease a while ago. The guns-free zone was in the lease.
Yes.
Or why didn't they have the sign posted on the door?
It's posted on the hallway.
Are you talking about prior to this?
Prior to all this.
6 months ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, I don't think we were, maybe the mayor was aware, but I wasn't aware that that provision was in our lease.
It's always been posted. It's always been posted on the lobby
door.
Well, I'm talking about on this door.
On this door, right.
Yeah, but it's always been on the lobby bulletin board.
Okay.
And again, there's a question as to whether this falls under their authority also, and under the terms of that lease agreement.
No.
So this-
But there could be a question of whether or not they would have to honor the contract if we allowed armed firearms to be
Yeah,
carried.
you get into, somebody asked about the lease, if you want to be hyper-technical, if all of the people that were carrying guns, and we've changed our mind, if they came through this door here, possibly, arguably, maybe, that wouldn't be violating the lease, because if they came through the front door, they wouldn't be violating the lease. Because I know that front door.
That hallway is part of the lease.
Yes, I know that is. The restrooms are part of the lease. That's what we had to re-engineer. If y'all notice, the restrooms are different. So.
I mean, if it's gonna be a gun-free zone, they need a sign on every door that goes in.
That is exactly right.
And I want to point out something just real quickly here, a couple of things really. The fact that the sheriff is here, 2 deputies are here with guns, it's not really a gun-free zone. But we've got them here to provide security if they continue to do so. I want to point out something. The signs you see on the front door here as you came in, you don't see them on the courthouse. When you come to the courthouse where my office is, and there's a reason for that. The county commission hasn't provided funding to provide a full-time security officer at the courthouse. So until they do, I'm going to provide security for my office and have. So beware. I'm as pro-gun as anybody you'll ever meet. I own enough guns to arm a third world rebellion if I want to. But it's up to you guys to decide. I want you guys to feel safe. I've never felt unsafe. I didn't feel unsafe when the people were coming in with the open carry. You know, it looked odd. I'm gonna be honest with you. It looked out of place to me. And I'm as pro-gun as anybody, but I did not feel unsafe. I felt a lot of times, but I never felt unsafe. Yeah. But it's important that you guys feel safe and that you guys have everything you need in here to make a comfortable decision and to govern with peace of mind, as we talked about earlier. I want you guys to be comfortable with it. You know, if you guys feel better with me bringing one of my AR-15s and put them on the wall right here, you just give me the word and I'll do it. I want you guys to feel comfortable and be at peace and feel safe. Let you guys know the truth.
Is
Mr.
our
Steele.
sheriff going to continue to maintain our security out here?
I think the sheriff would like to say a word.
I would.
Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate y'all giving me the chance to speak on this. To answer your question, Mr. Steele, yes. Regardless of what y'all pass today, we'll continue to provide security. Mr. Archie made the comment that we're not obligated to protect you. I may not be obligated on paper by the Constitution, but when I took the oath to become a police officer 20 years ago, I assumed that responsibility and that obligation. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. Now, can I be everywhere or my deputies be everywhere at all times to protect you? Absolutely not. I'd be blowing smoke up you if I told you that we could. But I will tell you it is a personal obligation of myself to do everything we can to make you safe. I'd like to speak to, I would like to back up to clear up a gray area before the last county commission meeting. I was in a meeting with the mayor and Floyd about another matter before y'all's last meeting. Floyd brought up to me that this was an issue and they were going to bring it up for a vote. He asked me if we would provide security at the county commission meeting. So I told him sure. I followed that up with, to me, it doesn't bother me for someone to be armed if they have a permit, a legal permit and a right to be armed. It doesn't bother me. But I don't have a vote. I didn't have a vote in September when y'all voted on it. I'm not going to have a vote today. We moved on to the other business that we were discussing. He simply wanted to know if I could provide security. Fast forward to September's meeting. Y'all voted on it, you passed it. I was approached by someone that said, can you believe they just passed this? And I said, well, I knew they were going to bring it up for a vote. I told them that it didn't matter to me. And then someone else started speaking to me and I left the conversation at that. And that conversation was misunderstood. What I meant, and I should have finished my thought process, was it didn't matter to me that they come in armed as long as they had a carry permit. Now, from a law enforcement standpoint, if I go in Walmart and I see somebody walking around with a gun on their hip, it concerns me. I don't know that person. I don't know what their mental capacity is. I don't know what their criminal record is. And if I'm with my family, I'm not going to approach that person and ask them to see their handgun carry permit. I'm going to leave them alone. It makes me uncomfortable. I believe in concealed carry permit. Me and Commissioner Hughes had this conversation on the phone and by email. And at one point, Commissioner Hughes said, I suggested that, I said, maybe you need to compromise. Maybe it needs to be concealed carry permit. I've been involved in law enforcement a long time. One thing I've learned is that our court system, our laws, a lot of times are compromised between two opposing views. I arrest someone, I charge them with 5 charges. Their defense attorney is going to call me, want me to throw out every charge. Well, I know I can't get 5 convictions. They know I'm not going to dismiss all the charges. So we meet in the middle and we come up with a solution that's best for us. Commissioner Hughes told me at that point, he said, well, I don't believe I want to compromise my views. And I understand what he's saying, but what I'm saying is I'm not asking someone to compromise their views. I'm just asking you to compromise with the person that sits on your left and right that may think different than you. Again, I don't have a vote in it. I campaigned stating I supported the Second Amendment. I stand here in front of you and hold that same stance. I support the Second Amendment. I'm a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. Happy birthday to the Marines today, by the way. Today's their birthday, in case you didn't know. 20-year law enforcement officer. My wife is armed. My house is armed. I believe in the Second Amendment. But I believe there needs to be a compromise. If the commission votes to allow firearms in the building, I believe they need to be concealed. That's my opinion. If someone comes in the back door to shoot this place up, whether you got your gun strapped to your forehead or hidden under your jacket, you can do the same thing and you'll accomplish the same task, whether you got to flip your coat back to pull it out or pull it off your back. It's not going to matter. So again, I appreciate y'all letting me speak on it, to tell you my stance on it, the sheriff's department's stance on it. We will provide security no matter what y'all vote for. I don't know if they used to in the past, but we will continue. We have a deputy here today. We're short-handed. We're running a real thin crew right now, but we managed to get one here, and if he leaves, we'll move to the back of the room so we can watch the back of the door then. Does anybody have any questions for me as far as what we can do at the sheriff's department? Commissioner Stu?
If for some reason somebody went to shooting and everybody brings firearms out, who are you gonna shoot?
Well, good question. But I look at, to me, common sense takes over. If I'm in the back of the room and somebody comes in the back with a weapon drawn and starts shooting in this room, I knew who was in this room when I entered this room. I know who entered this room after me with the firearm. I'm going to eliminate the one that I deem the threat, which would be the one that come in the back door that wasn't here when this meeting started.
What if there was two of them? One of them come in early and was sitting over on the side?
Again, I could what if it all day. I'm just telling you from my point of view.
What I'm saying is, if somebody goes to shooting, isn't it easier to take care of the problem with the person that's got the guns?
Sure, it can be. It can.
I mean, it eliminates who you have to pick and choose.
Sure.
If there's two people, one here early and one late, and they decide they want to shoot us up, I mean, and everybody else draws their weapons, wouldn't it be easier just to shoot the two that had the weapons?
These type of crimes are unpreventable. I wish I could stand here and tell you that the laws in place is going to keep it from happening. Mr. Archie spoke about the crime rate in Jackson, Tennessee. They can do what they want. They can put 100 new patrolmen on every shift, 3 shifts a day. The shootings ain't going to stop. If somebody wants to do it, they're going to do it. It's unpreventable.
I'm just saying, from your point of view, if you're going to have to start shooting, do you want to shoot everybody in here that's holding a gun, or do you just want to shoot the ones?
No, and I'll tell you, I've been in a situation where I've used my firearm. It's a split-second decision that the courts are going to take years to pick apart and pick me apart and analyze me over my split-second decision. You know, we could hypothetically talk about it, and we could what if it. If you were in cahoots with somebody that's going to come in and start shooting, they come in and start shooting, and then you jump up with a weapon, and it's chaos in here, and I look up, and you're shooting Miss Moss, not the guy that come in with the door with the back gun, I may shoot you. And if I'm wrong, I'll defend myself in front of the court of law later on, and I'll stand in front of them, and they say, "Why did you shoot Commissioner Steele? He had a carry permit." I'm gonna say, "Well, I saw him shoot Miss Moss in the side of the head, not the threat that come in the back." But you know, I'm just here to tell you that I believe in the Second Amendment. If you vote to make it concealed carry or not, we're going to provide protection the best we can.
I've got all confidence in the world in you and your deputy taking this courtroom, and that's the only one I would want to have another.
And that's fine. And that's fine. If that's what y'all vote, again, I don't have a vote. I do not have a vote in it. All I can do is offer my opinion to you on my stance on it, and that's what I wanted to do, because it was unclear as to my stance on it to some people. And you know, like the mayor said earlier, I'll honor whatever y'all vote for. We're going to provide security whether y'all carry concealed weapons or not. But that's if you're going to do it. For those of you that are on the fence, I suggest you make it concealed carry. Is the reason I took this podium. And from a law enforcement standpoint, and there's 2 other deputies in here on this commission, you can ask them after the commission, I bet they feel the same way. If you see somebody out in public just walking around with a gun on their hip, it makes us as law enforcement feel uncomfortable because we don't know them people. So, and like Mr. Archie said, we got nearly 500,000 people in Tennessee last year that applied for permits. We got a lot of people walking around with guns, and I don't know who they all are.
if I come out one, you better shoot me because I lost mine.
Now see, I would probably be okay in a court of law because I got plenty of witnesses that heard to give me the go-ahead. So, Ms. Moss, if he jumps up, you lay down. And,
if I didn't shoot Mr. Vallis in 16 years, there's probably.
Sheriff, I'm going to ask you a hard question. Do you believe that preventing people that have gun carry permits from coming in this room with their concealed carry in any way prevents crime?
do I think that preventing them from coming in here prevents crime? No.
So in other words, the gun-free zone rule that's been implemented, in your opinion, does nothing to prevent crime?
Again, it's my opinion, but no, I don't think that gun-free zones prevent crime.
Let me ask you another question, Sheriff, related to that.
And again, that's my personal opinion on it.
The opposite, do you think it being a place where people are carrying, besides officers are carrying guns, does that prevent crime in here?
I think in some instances it would. You could look across the board at the shootings we had in the schools, other gun-free, we could sit up here. I don't know how many gun-free zones there were shootings at last year. I would suggest probably 400 or 500 probably across the country. But I would also offer to you that there were probably more shootings than that in areas where guns were allowed. A criminal is not going to abide by the laws. If they're not right in the head, they could sit out in their car and watch every one of us come in with a pistol on our hip. If they got it in their mind they're going to come in and do it, they're going to come in and do it, and there ain't nothing we can do to prevent it from happening. All we can do is take action after it happens. I wish I could, like I said, I wish I could tell you these type things were preventable, and it's absolutely not.
I'd like to add to what the sheriff's saying. I've been a commissioner. This is going on my third term, and this is Commissioner Cody's second term. And both of us, by the way, are deputy sheriffs. I don't think anyone has ever seen us at any meeting with a weapon that you can see visibly. And I don't think we've ever intimidated anyone because of the fact that we're deputy sheriffs and we are authorized to carry weapons.
I offer this to you for those of you that are for it. When I started campaigning, I spoke, one of the first speaking engagements I had was in Milan at the Patriot Party. And it was a big crowd. Steve Hilton, it was the night he announced he was going to run for county mayor, so they had a large crowd. And they asked me, said, will you take questions? I said, sure, but just be careful what you ask me, because I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to give you my honest answer, whether you like it or not. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, try to win your vote. So that's what I'm doing. I'm giving you my honest opinion about what we have here. But also, sometimes, primarily for the ones that want the concealed carry permit, sometimes it's all in your approach. It's all in your sales pitch. I'm pro-gun, but carrying it around on your hip makes people uncomfortable. So for me, knowing I'm pro-gun, if I want to prevent people from being uncomfortable, I conceal it. Then it causes less friction, less resistance for my belief from those that don't believe like me. It's like saying, getting drunk is not against the law in your house. Getting drunk in public is, because it offends those people in public and it becomes a safety issue. So it's kind of the same thing. It's, I'm not saying that if you're for this to compromise your beliefs. I'm just asking you to compromise so the people next to you, you may get further in trying to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish.
How are we enforcing, if we have a gun-free zone, how are we going about enforcing this resolution?
We haven't addressed that yet. This was passed. This is the first commission meeting we've had since that resolution was passed. And again, I don't have a vote on it, but guess who's going to be the bad guy when it's got to get enforced? The one that don't vote. So again, whatever y'all vote to do, I guess I'll be the bad guy to take a hit on it if we have to enforce it. So, yes, sir.
Sheriff, do you think the public knowledge that concealed carry legal here could be a deterrent against violent criminals coming in?
It could. Like I said, some people, and again, this is my opinion, in their state of mind, depending on what their thought process is, it would deter them if they knew it was a concealed carry zone. Then there are other people, regardless, like I said, if they sit outside and watched us all march in here 2 by 2 with rifles slung over a shoulder, if they decide if they want to come here and shoot somebody, they're going to try it and not care if they get shot back or not. But you know, I think to a select number of people, then yeah, it would probably be a deterrent to them.
I got a question for the attorney. This vote, will this apply just for this forum, or will it apply for even committee meetings?
No, it was.
Sometimes we have people show up in committee meetings the same way.
Yeah, to my knowledge, those are at the courthouse, and there's not a law enforcement officer present. I'm sure you are.
Yeah.
But no, this would just be for the commission meeting. That's to my understanding what the motion is. And what we passed, I believe, was limited to the commission meeting. So no, it would not attend prior meeting.
I believe for it, I'm not sure, but I believe the minutes reflect that it was commission meetings and committee meetings. And the resolution before the body says the county commission discourages open carry at commission and committee meetings.
Okay, then the answer is yes. Thank you.
Paulie, this resolution before us is, it's not concealed. It doesn't say that. I mean, I'm reading it.
No, that would, no.
It says open carry.
Right.
He discourages
All right, Mr. Mayor, how about a question? We've had a lot of discussion.
Sheriff Thomas, we appreciate the input.
I'd like to speak before we get voted, please.
Commissioner,
Folks, this is near and dear to my heart, the Second Amendment. I grew up in the South. I'm a big hunter, and you know, I'm just not afraid of guns. But I understand that there are people that are afraid of guns. But I respectfully submit to you that this is not an issue of what you like or dislike. This issue before this body is much deeper than that. It is a constitutional issue. It's a constitutional issue. The Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States says that we can keep and bear arms. Now, there's a lot of talk about why that is, but the fact is, it's there. The state constitution, and it's in your resolution. I put it in there for a specific reason so that you are aware of what the state constitution requires of this body. When we act, folks, we are the government. So when we act to regulate guns, we are a governmental body acting to regulate guns, and we must follow the federal constitution and the state constitution. We all raised our hands and swore to do that. And if you look at the state constitution in the resolution, the only basis that we have to regulate guns is in view to prevent a crime. So if this no gun-free zone does not do anything to prevent crime, it is unconstitutional. There has to be some basis in it that will prevent a crime. So let's talk about now, who does a no gun-free zone apply to? The average citizen that does not have a permit cannot come under state law, cannot come through those doors carrying a gun. The average citizen cannot come through those doors. Their state law already prevents that. The average citizen can't come through that door with a shotgun or an AK-47 or any kind of machine gun or anything like that. There are laws in place that prevent that kind of thing. That can't happen. The only people that this applies to is people that have gone out and got a carry permit. And a lot of people look at their permit. How many times have you heard the term concealed carry? If you look at the law, it doesn't say concealed carry. But that's what more people than not that have a carry permit think it is. Well, what do you have to do to get a concealed carry? Who are these people that we're trying to protect ourselves against by virtue of this rule? They have undergone a thorough TBI check. They have no history of a major criminal offense. They have no history of mental illness. They have no history of being a drunkard. All of that stuff is in the statute, and I can go right down the list. These are good, law-abiding people that have never committed crimes, that have never done anything that would convince the TBI that they can't have a gun. That's the people that this rule targets, and that's the only people that this rule targets.
Steve, aren't there exceptions to that rule, though?
I'm sorry?
Aren't there exceptions to that rule? You're an attorney, and I'm sure you know there are exceptions like coming into a courtroom and stuff like that. And we don't allow them in even though they've got a permit.
That's right. Let me address the courtroom, if that's what you want to talk about. First of all, the courtroom scenario is different from this scenario because the state legislature has passed a specific statute that talks about courtrooms. And what does it say? It says that people cannot go into a courtroom with armed, except for law enforcement, except for the sheriff. When you go into the courtroom, what do? You go through a metal detector. So what's next here? We're going to put metal detectors here? Who are the people that we deal with in the courtroom? Criminals, right? We're dealing with criminals in the courtroom. So it's an effort to keep those people that have already shown us that they're not going to obey the law from bringing guns into. And you have multiple deputies. Every time I go in the courtroom, I have a deputy that I have to go through the metal detector. And then when I walk through the door, I've got 2 deputies staring, looking at the door. And there's only one entrance. Is that true in this place? No. There's multiple entrances here. What if Sheriff Thomas is back there? And what if the gunman comes through this door?
All these people pull out these guns and start shooting on him, might shoot me.
Well,
Right.
the guy that's coming through the door is coming to shoot you.
I'm talking about the guy behind
Mr.
me
Archie?
might shoot.
Steve, there's one more thing I think you need to bring to bear here. In that courtroom, there is one other select group of individuals that's allowed to be armed by the state legislature, and they don't have to have any training whatsoever.
And that's the judge.
That's the judge.
Right.
They specifically gave them through the state legislature the ability, because again, government doesn't have rights, it has powers. They granted judges the ability to carry firearms without undergoing any of that. They don't have to have the same background check, and you need to include that that's an FBI background check as well.
Who in most cases is sitting behind a bulletproof barrier under the new courtroom. So, another question I have, what is it that made us have to decide that we need to be a gun-free zone? You know, I heard that, well, somebody carried their gun on the outside of their pants and it intimidated me. I didn't like that. Well, I hadn't heard that that person pulled their gun and pointed at anybody or threatened anybody or did anything unlawful whatsoever. It's just the fact that somebody is intimidated by the presence of a gun. Therefore, that's why that we put in this resolution to compromise, as Sheriff Thomas has suggested. This resolution that is before this body right now allows for concealed carry only. That's what it does.
I have a question.
Steve, I have a question for you.
Hold on just one second. Let me finish and then I'll take your question. I know that we're smart folks in here. Whoever it is out there that we're afraid of, surely we're not naive enough to think that putting a sign on the door that don't bring a gun in here has any effect whatsoever. Folks, the only people that this rule applies against is law-abiding citizens. And unless there is some basis to think that those law-abiding citizens are going to commit crimes, the action that we took two months ago was completely against the state constitution. All right, who had questions?
I had a comment, Steve, to the alderman over here. When we did our handgun carry permit, we have to go out and qualify on a range. And as a retired military police officer, I qualified expert with my weapon. I have no problem in hitting bullseye where I want to shoot. And most everybody that's ever took a handgun course has to qualify with that weapon.
How about the state legislature? They won't allow guns in there. And you say they won't allow guns in the courtroom because there's criminals in there. Well, They won't even let the senators and the representatives carry guns.
There is security. To get there, you've got to go through security. Do you want to start that at county commission meeting?
Steve,
Where do you stop?
I'd like to answer that.
Okay.
When you go into the state legislature, and I go quite often, the legislators and their staff, when they get to the metal detector, they make a turn. They don't go through the metal detector. And most of our legislators are deputized. They're in a political position that most of them, they're sheriff deputizing, so they can legally carry in the legislature. So they're not disarmed.
I just say this, are we gonna jeopardize $80-something thousand in money get from the federal government? Or we don't know the answer to this. I don't think.
Mayor, we talked about this a long time.
That's right. Call for the question.
Guys, there's been a lot of good input on this. Commissioner Hughes, we appreciate your input. I think it's been a long discussion. Tennessee code is very clear. You as a body have the right to hang that sign on the door. You change your mind, I'll hang a different sign on the door. It's up to you to tell me what sign to hang. Question is being called for. Again, a yes vote is to allow concealed carry in the meeting. A no vote is to keep the rule as passed in September. I want to be clear on that.
Mr. Mayor, with the language that you can still carry openly, it's just discouraged. It doesn't say you can't, it just says discouraged. I just wanted to point that out.
I had a question about that. You know, I would feel better about it if it said disallows instead of discouraged.
There is a reason for that terminology in there. There's a brand new statute that was passed effective April the 28th, 2014. It's codified at 39-17-1314. And what that statute does, it specifically says that the General Assembly preempts the whole field of the regulation of firearms, ammunition, or components of firearms or ammunition, or combinations thereof, including but not limited to the use, purchase, transfer, taxation, manufacture, ownership, possession, carrying, sale, acquisition, gift, and so on of firearms. Now, there are certain exceptions to that preemption statute that is labeled, none of which apply here. All right, so the question then becomes, the very first of that statute says, except as otherwise provided by state law. The old statute that Mr. Flippin referred to does provide that the county commission, that a county governmental body has the right to regulate firearms. But you have to read those two statutes very closely. They could possibly be subject to litigation to determine what does it mean when the state legislature passed this statute that says we preempted. Therefore, the wording in the resolution is that we, like it's set up.
Motion's been made and seconded. Again, a yes vote is to allow concealed carry meetings going forward. A no vote is to keep the regulation as passed in September. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Egbert?
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham?
No.
Commissioner Sykes?
No.
Commissioner Longmire?
No.
Commissioner Carr?
No.
Commissioner Macklin?
No.
Commissioner Bivens?
Yes.
Commissioner Tubbs?
No.
Commissioner Morgan?
No.
Commissioner Cameron?
Yes.
Commissioner Summers?
No.
Commissioner Cole?
No.
Commissioner Nance?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
No.
Commissioner Flake?
No.
Commissioner Smith?
No.
Commissioner McEwen?
No.
Commissioner Littleton?
No.
Commissioner Pillar?
Yes.
Commissioner Steele?
No.
Commissioner Yergin?
No.
Commissioner Childers?
No.
Commissioner Moss?
No.
You got 18-7. 18-7. Motion fails.